Hi, and thanks for watching Backseat Broker Podcast, where we dig into the resources for homeowners, buyers, and sellers. Today, I have guest Matt Johnson from Namaste Solar with us. Welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure. Matt, tell me a little bit about your background and your role at Namaste Solar.
Yeah, I'm the Director of Residential Sales at Namaste Solar and have been here almost 15 years. My background, I have an aerospace engineering degree, which really doesn't have anything to do with solar, and had gotten into sales a while back and found myself really interested in the renewable energy field and found Namaste Solar as a company. Love the democratic workplace and co-ownership aspect of it, and have been here in the solar industry for the last 15 years.
Great. Okay, good. So you come with a wealth of knowledge for sure. Let's just jump into it. What are some of the benefits for a homeowner going solar?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits is, locking in savings on your electricity bill. By generating, electricity from the sun, you can, have a system that'll pay for itself over time with those savings that you're not, paying to the utility company. There's also a green benefit, going green, lowering your carbon footprint, using, that solar power immediately in your home. And, a lot of folks also like, the independence that they feel of having a little more control over their electricity bill and usage, so that independence is a third thing that folks are typically looking for.
Okay, great. And tell me a little bit about, I don't know if this is still happening in Colorado or not, but net metering, where you can sell back to the power company. Is that still a thing?
Yes. Yeah. And so, conceptually, net metering is something that the utilities are required to offer. And so if you are overproducing, maybe nobody's at home, the sun is out, you're producing more electricity than your home is consuming. It's going back onto the grid, going wherever it's needed. Your meter is essentially spinning backwards, digitally these days. Mm-hmm. And you can accumulate those kilowatt hours on your account, and then at night, or if it's cloudy, you can pull from those kilowatt hours. And the benefit there is you're essentially using the utility like a battery bank.
Okay.
And so you can trade back and forth at retail, and depending on which utility it is, they have different ways to true up those accounts at the end of the year. And some of them will allow you to roll over excess kilowatt hours from year to year. Some of them will zero it out at the end of each year and write you a check for that overage. The thing to point out there is, if they are writing you a check, it's at a wholesale rate versus a retail rate. And so the
Sure.
way to get the retail value out of excess kilowatt hours is to consume them. And
Mm-hmm.
that also leads into, from our standpoint, trying to consult with the homeowner to design the correct sized system, so that you don't have too much or too little. That all is part of the consulting design process that we go through.
Makes sense. Okay, great. And what are some of the state and federal incentives for going solar?
Yeah, great question. The biggest incentive is the federal tax credit. And that was recently changed in law by Congress to back to a 30% tax credit on the total system cost. So if your system was $30,000, when you file your taxes the next year, you could take a $9,000 tax credit on it. Obviously, you have to have tax liability. You have to pay taxes, but I think for most folks that's not a problem. And the local, the state and local incentives are that you don't have to pay, state or RTD sales tax on the equipment.
Okay.
And so that is the main incentive from the state. And so that can save you, a few percentage points on from the system cost, 4 or 5%.
Sure. Okay, great. All right. And is it better for a consumer to lease or to purchase the system?
Yeah, that's a great question too. The it really depends on the situation. I would say the one time that is leasing can make a lot of sense is if the homeowner doesn't have any tax liability. In that case, the leasing company is taking the tax credit, and what they're doing is passing that on to the homeowner in a lower lease rate, essentially.
Okay.
But if we look historically, when leasing came out in 2009, there were incentives from the major utility. Xcel Energy had a great incentive, and leasing. There was really a period of a couple of years there where leasing made a lot of sense economically because of those incentives. Those incentives rapidly went away, and so the value proposition changed to an ownership model. And at the same time, a lot of low interest financing came about, which wasn't around before. And so as solar hit the mainstream, banks were willing to loan, at low interest financing. And so what that did was change the value proposition for the homeowner, and it made it much better from an economic standpoint for the homeowner to own the system.
Okay.
And so you can go solar, no money out of your pocket. Good, obviously credit. Having good credit and working with various providers. Most of the local solar installers work with banks, credit unions, so we already have financing options that we can provide, and then the homeowner is able to take advantage of the tax credit, and then they also own the system, and at this point they own the renewable energy credits as well, and so that is the purest way to take advantage of the kilowatt hours you're producing on your roof.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And what happens to the system if a homeowner decides to sell their home?
Yeah. So like let's say they own it, and they're selling their house. There's a transfer with the utility that is done, and typically they're going to leave it with the house. What we've seen over time. And I think if you talk with 10 different realtors, you may get 10 different answers. But whether the PV system increases the value of the home, there are studies that show that it does increase the value of the home. And in addition to that, in a down market, what we've seen are homes with solar sell more quickly than homes without. We haven't been in a down market in quite a long time. But when I was selling systems, designing, in 2008, 2009, 2010, we definitely saw that homes with solar sold more quickly. There is one of the pros and cons of leasing versus owning. Owning the system is a much easier transfer. A leased system can be a little more complicated. You got to work with the leasing company. The incoming homeowner may have to qualify and take on that lease, that type of thing. Typically with an ownership model, the homeowner, if they've done a loan, as an example, for the system, that's usually tied to the individual, not to the system. And so if they still have that loan at the time of sale, they're just going to pay that loan off with proceeds from the home sale. And so then what they're transferring to the new homeowner is a fully paid for system that is just an asset on the roof, right?
Nice.
And so that's definitely worth something, right?
Sure.
To the homeowner with a lower utility bill.
Right. No, that makes sense. Another question that popped up in my mind. Any idea what the percentage is that the home value is increased by having solar, or is it?
There was a study done by Zillow, and I think that's offhand. I think that was around a 4% increase in the value of the home.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's and in general, when we talk about an estimated home value increase. Like if the system was $30,000, again, as a round number, they can take, a tax credit of 30%. So that's around, that's 9,000. And so the difference there that if you 30,000 minus 9 is around 21,000.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good rule of thumb for what it would add to the home value on day one.
Okay. Fantastic. Last question is, what should a homeowner look for in a solar installation company?
Yeah, so I think, one of the big things is the expertise. How long have they been in the market? Do they do their own installation? Do they have their own electricians? The folks that are getting on the roof, putting on the panels. There are different ways to do it. From Namaste Solar's standpoint, we want to have control over that installation, and so we do everything in-house. We have our own electricians on staff. We have, our own design team, and we're an employee-owned company. So, having owners on site to do things right the first time. When we are installing on a home, we're poking holes in the roof. We flash those with a roofing flashings and that kind of stuff. But you want to have folks that are accountable and want to do things right the first time for the homeowner's peace of mind and quality installation.
Great.
Those are some of the main points, and and then just longevity. We've been around. This is our 18th year, and we have seen dozens and dozens of companies kind of come and go, and so this is this system should last 25 plus years, and so you want to look for a company that has some longevity and is going to be around to support your needs if there are any.
Sure. Okay. And typically, does a solar system require a fair amount of maintenance, or is it pretty much you install and it's expected to be left alone for the next 25 years?
They're generally low maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
There are obviously electronic components involved. Those, like a microinverter, as an example, is a microinverter is a device that goes on each panel, and so when you're converting sunlight to electricity, you're making electricity in DC, and you need to convert it into AC to tie into the home. And a microinverter does that individually per panel, so it's converting the DC to AC. Those are on the roof. They come with a 25-year warranty and should last 25 years. And sometimes you will have some that fail. Very low failure rate. But I think one of the benefits of the systems these days is that they have monitoring. The homeowner can log in through their phone or their laptop, see what the system is doing. If there are issues, then they can reach out, in our case, to our service department, and we can evaluate the system and make repairs if needed. I will say personally, I've had a system on my house since 2010, and I've never had to do any maintenance to the system.
Okay.
So, so there potentially can be some maintenance. There can potentially not be any maintenance.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of moving parts, so there's not a lot of,
true.
That kind of stuff. So, and then from a cleaning and snow and those kinds of things, like in our climate, we get enough wind and rain and snow that the panels are generally keeping themselves clean. So that's not something that, you don't need to get on the roof and, squeegee your panels off, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, great. Well, that's all I have, but thanks for coming on, Matt. I really appreciate your spending time with us today, and hopefully some people will reach out to you.
Great. Well, I appreciate the time as well, and this has been fun. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right. Take care, Jim.